After Berkshire 759's last trip in August 1971, the High Iron Company leased ex-Reading 484 number 2102 for excursion work. A veteran of the Reading's Iron Horse rambles in the 1960s, she was then owned by Steam Tours Incorporated. Her first trips for High Iron were back-to-back one-day round trips on the Central of New Jersey between Elizabethport, New Jersey and Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Here she is crossing the Raritan River at Branchburg. Bethlehem, headed to the yard for servicing and a turnaround. While there, the trailing truck derailed, and the return trip was delayed for several hours. After a gray Saturday, the weather was bright and clear for Sunday's trip. We're back in Elizabethport here. This is the first of two photo run-bys. Crossing the Delaware at Easton Phillipsburg. That's the Lehigh Valley's trackage in the foreground, and the Lehigh and Hudson Rivers curved bridge in the back. This trip was also a farewell to the Central of New Jersey's operations in Pennsylvania, which the railroad would officially abandon just 1 month later. Transpo 72 was a big transportation exhibit held at Dulles Airport outside Washington, D.C. Railroad Enthusiasts Incorporated put together an excursion to there over the Memorial Day weekend, with 2102 as its motive power. It ran over the Central of New Jersey, the Reading, and the Baltimore and Ohio railroads. This is the Redding's Bridge across the Delaware at West Trenton. Here we are on the station platform at Laurel, Maryland. Here's one shot from Transpo 72, the Red Arrow's aerobatic team. The return trip from Washington. The excursion was called the Royal Blue since it followed the route of the Baltimore and Ohio's famous New York-Washington train. This is the Baltimore and Ohio's bridge over the Susquehanna at Perryville. In April 1973, the Delaware and Hudson Railway celebrated its 150th anniversary. For the occasion, they leased 2102 and gave it a cosmetic makeover as one of the D&H's 300 Series 484s. A month later, still with D&H number boards, smoke lifters, and a recessed headlight, 302 headed up a 2-day Hoboken-Binghamton round trip. Outbound was via the old Erie Main Line. This is Moodna Viaduct near Cornwall, New York. In case you weren't counting, that is a 22-car train. Crossing the Delaware at Mill Rift. Though it is still 2 years away, the observation car is already painted red, white, and blue for the American Freedom Train. Narrowsburg, New York. The old Erie line has a long 1.2% climb from Susquehanna to Gulf Summit. And here she comes up it unassisted, safety valves popping, whistle blowing, 22 cars behind her. To the right you can see the headlight of some diesel helpers standing by. But they weren't needed. 2102 took that train over the summit on her own. This was Superpower at its finest. Into Binghamton. It's been a long day. Next day, the return trip was over the old Lackawanna main line. Tunnel at Factoryville, Pennsylvania. Nayog Tunnel in Scranton. Next to the lake in Gouldsboro, Pennsylvania.